Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am Nicole, your host. I'm excited to introduce you to Ton.Bil today. We are going to be talking about connecting with nature as a source of bliss. I want to invite you to think about what does that mean to you? And then I want you to grab your tea, grab your notebook, grab a friend, and listen in. Trust me, you'll enjoy this conversation. I'll see you soon. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tips Over Tea. I am excited to introduce you to Ton.Bil. I know he's like Bill, just like Bill. Ton today. I just recently met him in a program that we're doing together, and something about what he said just like I need you on the show. So today we're going to be talking about the connection with nature and how that can be a source of bliss, which I think is very important. And I just want to make note that that is not green screen behind him. That is just where he lives, and it's beautiful. Don, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Nikki.
You're welcome. So, connection with nature as a source of bliss. First, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? And I know it has to do with bliss, so I would love for you to share a little bit about that, and before we dive into the topic for today.
Right, right. Well, I work as a coach and trainer, especially with people who are going through a different stage in their life where bliss is nowhere on the horizon, um, and where dealing with heavy or difficult emotions is already the first thing that they can think about. But
Mhm.
I also see in everyone I encounter, you and clients and friends and people on the street, I see what I sometimes call the Buddha nature. That's a
Mhm.
Buddhist concept with the idea that we are born to experience bliss, that we are born to take in all the experiences of life,
Mhm.
and that includes the suffering, but that doesn't mean that we cannot go our way in a light way. So
Mhm.
bliss means joy,
Mhm.
and joy is available.
Mhm.
And I'm correcting a little bit the angle of the camera.
Mhm.
Joy is therefore something that I see on the horizon for every one of us, whatever the circumstances we are in right now, or whatever the way that we feel that our life is maybe off track.
Mhm. And I love that because a lot of times people think that joy is a far off thing. They have to accomplish things to experience it instead of, it sounds like you're saying it's intrinsic. It doesn't have to be based on a situation or obtaining of anything like that.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. And that gives people hope. It's like,
Well, yeah, and it can also give source to skepticism
mhm,
when you didn't experience it, and that's why I think the topic of for us today can be helpful for those who say, "Hey, I don't know how to do that. How where do I find that then? Can you just point me to it?" And I would like to try to give a few pointers today.
yeah, I would love that. Let's go ahead and get started. Where would you start with that? If someone's like, how do I experience it through connecting with nature?
Right. Well, let let us look a little bit at the definition of what we are talking about. So we already talked about bliss as being joy, and I don't think we need to describe that feeling more. The most important maybe is to say that that is not a continuous state. It is not something that I'm at a joy level and I will never get below it. No, it is already something that, like everything in life, is of a changing nature. So
Mhm.
that's still something that we can experience, but it's not something constant, which is important to acknowledge.
Agree.
Then the word connecting,
Mhm.
um, it's almost like it's something out there, and we are going to make connection to it.
Mhm.
Uh, I think connection is mostly um, a thing about where our consciousness is and where our awareness are.
Mhm.
And that means that when we are looking at nature, um, it doesn't necessarily mean to connect with nature and to find bliss there that you go live in a pet natural reserve like I do. Um,
Although that would be nice.
yes, yeah, although that would be nice. And of course, I choose to do that when I had the opportunity because it allows me to be constantly grounded, I would say, in
Mhm.
that experience. And that, of course, is a source of bliss that goes on every morning when I wake up, and it doesn't end when I go to bed, because then there are still the owls and the frogs in the water reservoir that are wah, wah.
I love that.
I've got one that I'm called Grégoire. I call him Grégoire. I live in France, so I gave him a French first name, and and he is, and I don't mean, I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
He is a friend of mine, and
Mm.
he reminds me of his presence there,
Yeah.
and he reminds me, therefore, of my presence here. We are in this together.
Mhm.
Now, when I say that it's not necessary to be in the middle of nature, then we maybe should look into what other um, mm, encounters can we have with what actually is natural,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah, I love that. I love that because I was thinking, like, if someone doesn't live in a place that has a lot of green, like even just buying plants or
Hmm.
and for the home or a state park, a central park, if you could connect with that. If none of that's possible, what other ways would you say connecting with natural
Yeah,
is?
there are many ways, and I would like to start off with the ones that you already mentioned, having plants
Okay.
in your house. Now, just putting plants in your house doesn't necessarily mean that you are connected to nature,
Okay.
because you could of course look at them like, oh, they're nice and green, and they are like an embellishment of the room.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I talk about the connection, let's first say that the word nature is also used like the essence. When I talk about the nature of you or the nature of anything, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about how it is in its origin, how it is essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So when we would have a plant in our room, I do have a few there where I'm looking at now.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the veranda, and I have a few plants that like the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to connect with them, for instance, means that I will also put them myself in their pots, that
Mm-hmm.
I will see how they do well or not so well,
Yeah.
that I tune into do they need more water or less water. So there's one that is a papyrus, that is a plant that needs a lot of water. It wants to have wet feet, but
Mm-hmm.
next to it is a pot with rosemary, and it doesn't like wet feet. So now the point is that I get connected with them, these living beings,
Yeah.
and that also makes me aware of my own naturality.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the connection is already established, and I can see something growing there. There's something moving. It has, if you will, its own purpose.
Yeah.
Now, all of that means that it also connects me with my own naturality, with my own purpose, with my own being a living being.
Yeah.
And that is where, in a most basic level, the bliss of being alive can be, mm, we can try to reach it there.
Yeah.
It's very simple, and it just starts with the example that you gave of a pot plant.
Yeah.
Same is true if you prepare your own meals.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very different from buying a pizza
Yeah.
or a burger. It is when you have fresh vegetables, or anything else, and that you connect with that plant and you see how it has grown, and then you put off some parts and cut other parts, and then you'll see the inside of it. By the way, you are the first person. This is I found that always amazing. I'm the first person to see the inside of an apple. I'm the first person to see the inside of a leek that I cut open.
Yeah.
That's never seen before. And
Yeah.
that is what I mean with connecting.
Yeah.
It means that I consciously am aware of this living thing.
Very present in the moment.
And that is, yes, and that's where you get it. Right? Being present in the moment is another way that we can describe bliss, because it means we're not distracted by any unpleasant memory or any fear or whatever we have for the future. We are in the present moment, which is the only reality that life has for us.
I love that. And I've just experiencing and preparing my own food, because it's so, we've gotten away from that because convenience is very convenient.
Right.
And what I've found, just when I do prepare my own food, like there is a sense of like really deep love for myself. So it's like I'm worth the time it takes to make sure I have something that is going to really serve my body well, and it's nice being able to do that and feel that. So that also is a source of bliss too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy that you mentioned the word body, because indeed we are talking about embodied bliss here. We are talking about embodied consciousness.
Yeah.
And what would you think about when we just do together, and the audience can join us here, a very embodied exercise of connecting with nature?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And in the place where we find ourselves, and we can do that. I have a little introduction here to make first, because our body is nature. The whole functioning of our body is a biological, you can describe it as biology, right?
Yeah.
And in that sense, I don't want to ignore that we are very conscious, interesting human beings, but at the same time, we are often unconscious of all the bodily processes that are going on, which are natural processes. They go their own way, and they even do so when we sleep. All right. So here's an exercise that we can do, and for some it may not at first be blissful, because the body is giving all kind of signals and does everything that it wants to do. That is what nature does, right? It just goes its own way. But still, it is a way also of calming our often hyperactive minds. And that is already an important step. So the idea would be that we focus on our breath. In that sense, it's just like almost a mindfulness breathing exercise or something.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my notes here. And we are going to notice the impulse of our in-breath and out-breath. So if you breathe out, at some point you'll feel the impulse to breathe in again. Wow. Even if you try to stop it for 30 seconds, a minute maybe, but at some point the impulse will come. That there is a reason behind that. Has to do with the balance between oxygen and CO2 in your body and in your blood, and it is signaled in the body, and the body just gives a very powerful impulse to the lungs to start pumping in new oxygen.
Yeah.
Let us focus on that impulse, and we can even play with it, like keeping our breath a little bit longer and see it appearing, and we can do nothing about it. And it is the bliss of being alive. It is the most persistent force in us to keep us alive. Shall we try that? Shall we do that?
Yeah, I love
Okay.
it.
Okay. I'll close my eyes for doing that, because that also means that you and everyone who's looking can just focus on themselves. And let's first just connect our consciousness, our awareness with the breath, the chest going up and down, or the belly. Let's do that a couple times. And then let's go play. And after the next out breath, or the next, let's wait for the impulse for the in-breath. So we don't automate it. And when we feel the impulse coming, we might even resist it for a little bit and see how strong it becomes. That is our vitality. That is our nature in living in us. So let's do that. Some are still holding their breaths. Others have already started to breathe in. That's not the issue here, how long you can keep your breath. The issue here is, and you can open your eyes again if you feel like it, the issue is that you have connected to a very powerful source of nature, which is you could say. And how is this also opening the door to bliss? Well, if you become more and more familiar with this force, you become more and more in awe of being alive at all. And you know one day this will no longer happen. We call that the end of life. But it is a transition. Nature will just move on with us. And being in awe with your own life, maybe not every moment of the day, but hey, we are starting here a practice that gives us the opportunity to feel how blissful it is to be alive. And maybe it's not always enjoyable. Maybe we don't like it at every moment, but we can fall in love with something that we don't like because it's there and it is living and it is giving us every opportunity.
I love that. And I also love how if you are in a moment that you're not so fond of, sometimes breathing is not helpful for people. It's just like, I've tried breathing and it doesn't take me out. But if you focus on that impulse, it brings a different feeling, I've noticed, and a different sense of appreciation and a different realization that everything will be okay. This will not always be right. Like, it's not going to stay this way. So I really appreciate that share, because I've never even thought about it to that degree. Like, that's super mindfulness.
Yeah, you could call that super mindfulness, right? And so this means that, of course, we can do this anytime that we want. It also means that we have now already a whole array of connecting with nature. We talked about living in nature. Of course, if you don't live in it, you can go out there. We talked about connecting with plants and everything that is living in our environment. We talked about preparing our own food. What more do we have? We have the whole world around us that is full of nature. Even on the streets of the city where you live, the ants are parading there, and
Mm-hmm.
they are just the living nature that's going around there. Well, so if you want to and have 5 minutes, go sit down and kneel next to a parade of ants, and and be amazed how they organize themselves, how they go around an obstacle. That is your mind connecting to a natural phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know any else than at some point feeling how beautiful that is.
Yeah.
And that it is independent of me. It doesn't matter what I do. Well, of course I can crush them, but
Mm-hmm.
they will even reorganize them. That is also so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So nature is everywhere. It is in us, it's around us, and in the end it will also give us qualities like compassion,
Mm-hmm.
respect,
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm.
And these qualities are in themselves a source of bliss.
Yeah.
If you
Very.
feel them in yourself, if you feel love, that's bliss. If you feel compassion for a neighbor, for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that is the start of bliss.
Yeah, I agree. I love that you brought up ants because the other day I saw a caterpillar and I picked them up. Just let them crawl on me for a little bit before I put them back down, and then just I do connect that way because I'm always in awe. The childlike is the childlike exploration and curiosity and delight.
It's interesting that you mentioned that childlike, because indeed this is how children naturally go about it.
Mm-hmm.
However, in our upbringing, we often get scared about certain animals, especially insects.
Yeah.
Um, I think, biologically speaking, ants are not considered real insects, but maybe they are. I don't know. That is not my specialty. Anyway, anyway, insects. People grow afraid of them because some of them can sting. Right. That is
Right.
mainly the whole thing about it.
Yeah.
Um, um, and I can understand that it makes it a little bit more difficult for people to even look at an ant.
Mm-hmm.
Also, most people are very afraid of spiders, for instance.
I think
Um, by the way, keep them alive because they will deal with the insects.
right. I do. If I see a spider in my house, I'm like, hey.
Yeah, but you and I, we know that there are people who are terrified of
Yeah,
spiders, right?
it's true. Yeah.
And uh, um, what we have just experienced in no, maybe that's not right. We were connected with our own nature. The
Mm-hmm.
spider has its own nature, and as much as we can be in awe with our own functioning, we can, if we take maybe a little bit of distance to the spider
Mm-hmm.
and see it create a web or see it do anything that it does, maybe also seeing it not moving for how long. You and I cannot sit so moveless for half an hour or half a day as a spider can.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then you can observe them from a distance, right?
Yeah.
This is what I mean also with connecting. It
Yeah.
means that you connect maybe to something that is frightening you, but take the risk and take your distance and see what it is doing.
Yeah.
And then you are in the present moment, even if it takes a half a day.
I love it. Yeah, very true. And yeah, that's the underlying, like the common denominator. It's just being very present and noticing what is going on with whatever it is that you're paying attention to or focused energy. So I love that because it, like you said, it keeps the mind from thinking about what happened yesterday and what may happen tomorrow.
Mm.
And it is extremely blissful and peaceful to be very present. And people think they can't meditate, and that's really that's like how you meditate. It's just being very present in the moment, and your breath exercise will definitely help with that.
Well, thank you. And meditation, like we uh, discussed with the spider or the ants, means that you can do it with open eyes.
Mm-hmm.
and you can let it last for as long as you want, but
Mm-hmm.
already you are focusing on one thing. And what we have talked about is that nature or any natural phenomenon is our focus.
Yeah.
Now, having made that full circle, I want to go back to one word that you also said.
Sure.
It was a sentence. Convenience is so convenient. Okay, I like that phrase,
Thank you.
and 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 I want to point out that at first nature seems not that convenient. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it is a little bit harder to grow your own food
Mm-hmm.
than to buy it in the supermarket. It's a little bit harder to prepare your own food than it is to buy a prepared meal. However, this aspect of convenience um, will gradually also lose its importance,
Mm-hmm.
I have found,
Mm-hmm.
when you get more of that other experience of the inconvenience, what you could call inconvenience, which, however, brings you closer to the reality, closer to nature, closer to um, everything that you can connect with. So,
Yeah.
convenience, I would almost say, is the opposite of connection,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just as from a very different perspective, if I am in a relationship with you, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
convenience means that I don't know how to express this, but there is this distinction in any relationship where connection often means that it's a little bit the harder way, but
Yeah.
it is where you are real with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it is with a colleague or with a life partner or with a neighbor, it may be very convenient not to speak to them at all,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no connection there.
Yeah.
And in the end, I would say you end up lonely.
Yeah.
Well, this is part of what I do with people when they have grown lonely. I give them a training program and we go straight through that difficult emotion and we get at the other side where connection becomes the new normal.
Love it.
Mm.
I love it. Time has flown by. This conversation has been absolutely beautiful. And I just want to make sure I give you the opportunity to share how people can connect with you. um, so, because you've described like who you work with, so anyone who happens upon has the opportunity to watch and join us, if they connect, like if they resonate, yes, I need somebody in my life to help me navigate this. Please feel free to share, unless you have other points that you wanted to cover. But otherwise, share how people can get in touch with you, and it'll be
Okay.
in the description too below. But yeah.
Yeah, well, there is, let's make it very simple. Send me an email. That is my name. It's in the screen here at gmail.com. It's the
Perfect.
easiest way. Of course, I have a website. It's lovebybreakup.com because I specialize also in people going through rough breakups.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the website, since I'm practicing more my work than being a website builder, it may have a form that is not even really functioning. So just send me a mail, right? If you like to connect, yeah.
Awesome.
Ton.Bil at gmail.com. That will do.
That is very simple. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that you reminded me and everyone that nature is an essence of being, not just the outdoors and the. So I really appreciate that, and the point of connection and it being a source of bliss is just a concept I hadn't thought about it to that degree. So I really appreciate that awareness. And I actually write affirmations, and you said something that reminded me, I'm trying to pull it up, of an affirmation that I wrote about us being nature. And I know
Now I'm getting curious.
I have to find it. Let me see.
And what a wonderful interview you gave us. What a wonderful style of asking questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I
While
appreciate
you are looking for your affirmations.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like your show, and I've seen a few episodes, and I thought I want to be with Nikki in the show.
Aw, I appreciate that. Let me see. I think, if I can remember, I think it's something to the effect of nature knows what to do, and I am nature, and I choose to trust myself, or something to that degree. I'm just trying to.
It already sounds good like that.
Thank you. I've written.
Well, everyone, of course, can make up their own affirmation if they like, because
Mhm.
it will also make this truth come back to you every time you do your affirmations. And being reminded of it is very important, because it's easily forgotten. If you are taken up by the daily work and you are in a non-natural environment, then it can
Mhm.
easily be forgotten.
Absolutely. I will. I'll post it in the description, because I don't want to keep people when I find it, and definitely share it with you.
Great.
So I think it's one I wrote last year. So I was just trying to figure out, like, where did I put it? But yeah, so I will grab it. But for now, I just want to thank you so much, Ton. This has been a beautiful conversation, very, very blissful. And thank you to those who catching us live or catching this later. Do share it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and share this with someone you know could benefit from it, which I would say a lot of people, so especially these days. So for now, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time. Ciao, everyone. See you next time.
See you.
Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll be notified anytime we upload a new video or go live. And as always, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post it in the comments. We're always checking that. In the meantime, have a great